One of the challenges of being an oyster farmer is if you take 1,000,000 seed out of the hatchery, they fit in your two hands and they weigh about 2 pounds. 18 months later, that will completely cover 1 acre and weighs about 200,000 pounds. So as that kind of crop grows, you have to be prepared to expand. My name's Skip Bennett. I'm the owner and founder of Island Creek Oysters. Growing up, I worked out on Duxbury Bay. My dad was a lobsterman and a fisherman. And by the time I was in high school, I was shellfishing to make money. I really loved the lifestyle. I really felt comfortable. I felt at home on the bay. In 1990, I started messing around with growing some clam seed. I got wiped out by a parasite in 1995. So it was kind of a tough way to get into it. But after my clams died in 95, I was able to find some oyster seed from a hatchery up in Maine. I didn't even know if they'd grow out in the bay because there were no wild oysters. All the while I was shellfishing to sort of pay the bills. When it first started to really work, it was kind of euphoric. It's not like all the problems were solved at once, but certainly the years when I, got through the summer and had money in the bank and actually had my taxes from the year before paid, that was pretty exceptional, especially after so many years of, shellfishing, which it's a tough way to make money. One oyster that we grow, it's called Aunt Dottie's. That oyster to me is really cool. It was my Aunt Dottie's house. She owned it in the 1940s and she was just a great lady. And I was able to buy the house years later. And then years after that, I was able to permit a farm in front of the house. And it's out near the opening of the bay. So the water's really cold. It's very exposed. So those oysters get beat up all the time. They grow slow, but I think the flavor is incredible. I think what kind of qualifies a really good oyster is sort of the complexity. So with those oysters, they're kind of medium brine. Then there's sort of a sweet, almost like crab meat flavor. There's sort of seagrass flavors that end on a really sweet note. I love that oyster. I love the complexity of it. And to me, it was a real challenge to get it permitted. It was a challenge to figure out how to farm there in a way that was effective. So it's a real victory for me. I don't know of another protein that we raise or harvest that improves the quality of its environment. So through bioremediation, the removal of nitrogen largely, oysters are doing a huge ecological service. On top of that, we're using the environment, the natural resources to actually make something that didn't exist. It's an important industry and there is a lot of benefit.